Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Sunday night showdown picks between the Chiefs and the Ravens. We have a marquee matchup tonight. It's going to be a super exciting game to watch. Got a bunch of money on top for DraftKings, so let's go ahead and get right into it. The 1 o'clock games just finished up. Hopefully play some Cooper Kupp as he broke the slate. 2 touchdowns. The Cowboys game just got underway. That's going to make or break a lot of people's days as well, but Cooper Kupp already did that on the early slate or on the 1 o'clock starts. So let's get into this one. As always, appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get started. So we have a bunch of studs that you probably want to play: Mahomes, Jackson, Hill, Kelsey. I'm looking at trying to get 3 out of 4 in each of my lineups because you have some value here at the bottom that could make it work. But those are just so all these guys have just so much upside that most times than not they're just going to be probably key for showdowns. If you want to take a look at the snap counts, we can look at the Chiefs running back situation. Clyde Edwards-Helaire did play most of the work, 72% week 1. Their wide receivers are interesting to look at because besides Tyreek Hill, there's no longer Watkins, who gets some revenge maybe on this slate. But you have Robinson and Hardman both played over 45 snaps, with Robinson playing a handful more. And then got Pringle playing a handful. He played about 11. So that's going to be pretty important. If you want to look at the Ravens receivers, they have both Duvernay and Brown are questionable. So hopefully both end up suiting up. But if one of them is out, then definitely play the other one because they're going to just have to be whoever is healthy. Them and Watkins are just going to have to play a lot of snaps. And that could bode well for Mark Andrews, who had a very disappointing week 1. He was still out there on the field for 80+% of snaps. They don't have Nick Boyle right now, who's on injured reserve. So I would expect Mark Andrews to play a bigger role this week. Looking at some of the cheap plays here, you have Duvernay is $2,200. He played a bunch more snaps than Pringle, who's similarly priced. So I'd much rather play Duvernay. I think you could look to Pringle if you wanted to, but then you have Freeman as $400. He just got called up. I don't think he'll play much. He might get a handful of snaps here, but if that's like the ultimate tournament option. Not looking at either defense. This should be a high-scoring game. I think the kickers are interesting because both teams will score a bunch of points. If they happen to, both teams will be able to move the ball, and if they're not able to get into the end zone, the kickers should benefit. I would be shocked if both of the kickers. I wouldn't be shocked if both of the kickers have over 10, possibly like over 12 or 14. Hardman, I like him a little bit more than Robinson just because he has a little bit more big play upside. And this year, without Watkins, you would expect a guy like Hardman to take a big step forward. He does have a lot of talent. He has a ton of speed. And he did get 3 targets, 19 yards. We know that Mahomes will take shots deep. A lot of those will go to Hill, Kelsey, but they can easily go to Robinson or Hardman. And Hardman gives you definitely a lot of speed. Latavius Murray is interesting because he barely played in the first half. In the second half, they went with Murray a lot, especially at the end of the game. Probably just a veteran, close game, just to probably trust him a little bit more right now than Tyson Williams. But Williams was super impressive in the first half. He had some nice runs. He also had a couple of nice grabs, ended up working into the end zone as well. With Murray being about $1,600 cheaper, I think I still like Williams more, but both of these guys will get some work, and don't be shocked if they go with like a 60-40 split or like a even a 50-50 split. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you don't want to kind of pick and choose between the Ravens running backs, I think he looks better than Williams and Latavius Murray because he's going to play 70+% of snaps, whereas the roles are a little bit still unclear with those two on the Ravens. Kelsey, Hill, I mean, what more can you say? If you can get to them, play both of them. This type of game, I would probably lean to Kelsey because I think the Ravens are not going to allow. I mean, they definitely can allow some big plays, but I like Kelsey this week, especially if people are still chasing Hill from his huge week 1. Both guys are definitely playable. If you play a bunch of teams, definitely spread them out. And then Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, you want to get to both of those guys. Out of the top 4, I want to get to at least 3 out of the 4 guys above 10K in my lineup. And then you have on the Ravens receivers, hopefully Brown plays. He's 9K, so he's pretty expensive. I would probably like to get to the Chiefs guys that are a little bit more expensive and probably go down to like Mark Andrews, who's 62, save almost $3,000 and going to Brown. And then Watkins, if Brown or Duvernay miss, he looks good. He looks good anyways because he's healthy compared to the other guys who maybe they might be a little bit limited. Who knows? And he gets revenge in this matchup. Well, he wants to probably take it to his old team. So let's look at some builds here. I will probably start with Lamar Jackson and captain, save about $1,200. That will definitely make a difference. if you want to try to get to at least 3 of the guys above 10K, you're down to just $3,100 left right out of the gate. So you would plug in like a Duvernay, probably look to, you could play one of the kickers here. But if you want to get to at least Hardman, you're down to just 25. So the only reasonable option would be Pringle if you want to save some money. I mean, Pringle has shown to have, he's probably going to get at least a couple targets. But I would probably like to do a little bit better with some of the cheap guys. So if we probably do something with like Travis Kelce at captain, I mean, that's going to make a huge difference because he's like $4,000 cheaper, or he's $2,000 cheaper than Lamar Jackson. He is, in the captain spot, he is like $300 cheaper than Mahomes. So if you do that, you can still get to all of these guys. You're still going to probably have to go with like Duvernay, Pringle, and then go with one of the kickers or something like that. If you go Pringle, Duvernay, actually you do have $6,600 left. You could plug in Andrews. So another kind of a cheap approach. The 2 kicker approach might work, but I probably would like to get to at least 1 kicker. But if you wanted to get to both kickers, you could do something like that. So only thing I'm really trying to focusing on is trying to get at least 3 of the top 4 most expensive guys in my lineup. Let's do one with, you could see Mark Andrews find his way into the end zone, get some more targets with the receivers being banged up. If we do him at captain, you can go Mahomes, Jackson, Kelce, and you still, you would probably have to go with like Tucker, and then you can go with Duvernay. So this one is pretty heavy on the Ravens if you think they're going to be able to get the job done, but the kicker isn't really part of it. Like you have 3 Ravens, 2 Chiefs, then you have a kicker that could go either way. So that's something, at least you get Mahomes, pair him with Travis Kelce. So that's kind of, we'll do one with Edwards-Helaire as well because, he's going to get a lot of work. I like him more than like Tyson Williams and probably more than Latavius Murray. But let's do one with going with the stars and scrubs. If you want to jam in all the studs. It worked out on the other day going all the way down to like Brown on the Redskins. If you played him at captain, you would be able to get in all the studs on that showdown. So let's do one with the McCole Hardman at captain. He's $1,600, so good price tag. At captain spot, you're going to free up all the money. Go Mahomes, go Jackson. Still get to Kelce. Now you have $4,000 left, so definitely much of a different story. You can go a bunch of ways. You can get with one of the kickers and Butker and go with Robinson and save $500. A full-on Chiefs stack, and then you got Lamar Jackson, a running back, if you think the Chiefs are going to run them out of the building, which is possible if the Ravens are missing some of their wide receivers. Or you can probably force yourself to go with some of these Ravens guys, and you can go with Duvernay at $2,200, the 3rd wide receiver, and then you just miss out on Andrews, so that is a shame. So the only way you can really rectify that is if you instead go Robinson at captain, and then you have, you can go up from Andrews to Tyson Williams, at least, miss out on Edwards-Helaire unless you go with Pringle instead. So a bunch of ways that you can kind of mix and match. Maybe that allows you to go back. No, you're going to be short. But a bunch of ways to kind of mix and match on this showdown. Just in terms of some core plays, I think probably going with like Kelce at captain. You just know exactly what you're going to get. I don't mind taking a shot on some of these cheap guys because guys like Duvernay, probably like even Robinson, they're going to have to get some targets. So this would probably be some type of approach I would start with. So let's take a look at FanDuel where it's a completely different story. So over here on FanDuel, it's a completely different story because looking at the cheap end guys, you have Robinson is only $6,000. If you compare him with like Hardman, you save $2,000. So definitely Robinson looks better. On FanDuel, you also have Pringle at 65, Duvernay at 65. So Duvernay, Robinson. If you go with 2 of those cheap guys right out of the gates, you're going to be able to jam in all the studs like Mahomes, Jackson, even get to Kelce or Hill. You're left with 67.50, so that would be perfect for going Robinson. You could even go with the 7K option, which doesn't look like a ton. You have Latavius Murray is there at 75. Tyson Williams is very expensive at 12K, so he would be a fade for me. But jamming these 3, and then you can still go with, you still got 2 starters in 3 wide receiver sets. If you go Robinson and Duvernay or something like that, you save $1,000. So if you wanted to, instead of Duvernay, get yourself a guy that can at least get some more touches and maybe work his way into the end zone, that would be Latavius Murray. So at least on FanDuel, it's pretty easy, I think, to build a lineup now to be very different. I don't see how you would avoid Mahomes or Jackson at MVP unless you think Kelsey or Hill, they could go off, but one of those four is probably going to be the MVP. For me, it's going to be Mahomes or Jackson, just because Jackson can run a little bit. But I would take Mahomes. I have him projected more than Jackson, even though he's on the road, because he has the weapons. Jackson might have to do a little bit more on his legs today, because his weapons I think will play, but been great, and we'll see about the status of Brown. At least Andrews is somewhat affordable at 10K, but I think there's just better routes to go. So that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.